Hello, hello. Welcome to the 13th episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the chief veggie pusher, myself, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need to plan an adventure, and also this podcast. With this podcast, I hope to bring you the inside scoop of what vegan-friendly, and eco-friendly businesses are doing in the wide world of travel. Plus, I'll give you the full download of what's going on behind the scenes at Veggies Abroad. This is a bit of a special episode introduction, as I'm recording it from Greece. Well, actually, I am not just recording it from just anywhere in Greece. I am recording it from one of the best vegan hotels, Ethos Vegan Suites, right in the heart of Hira. This family-run spot is simply amazing. Artemis and Joskun have considered absolutely every detail. I was greeted with a special welcome basket filled with chocolates, which I have completely devoured, and I have only been here maybe 5 hours, and a special tea that's produced from a fragrant plant called Malotira that grows in the mountains of Crete. While that's fabulous, the fabulousness didn't end there. My mini bar is stocked with more vegan goodies, and they've included a variety of unique zero-waste toiletries, like these cool soap shampoo pods that I've not seen anywhere else. And I've checked out a ton of zero-waste toiletries and types of products, and really cool slippers made from old towels, which is also something I haven't seen anywhere else. But you know what? I haven't even gotten to breakfast yet. I actually thought I really wanted to get to bed early tonight because I want the morning to come really fast. Breakfast isn't a standard affair around here. Artemis creates a personalized feast for each guest who stays here, which is brought to their room at an agreed upon time in the morning. If I weren't coming up against a deadline to finish this episode, I would have waited so that I could tell you all about it. But, you can still see it. I've been documenting this entire adventure via Instagram stories and posting a few updates via the Facebook group too. So no stone will be left unturned from my visit here either. I am coming to the tail end of my Greek vegan adventure. I started the second week of April with an itinerary through the mainland and the Peloponnese Peninsula. It was really important for me to do that, as people tend to forget, or maybe they don't know, Greece's mainland has a ton to offer. It's not just about the islands. The itinerary that I had was a great mix of archaeological sites, mountains, and the beautiful ocean. And I spent the week with a local guide who's from Athens and also leans very heavily on the veggie way of life. It was simply meant to be. I did this itinerary because I get a ton of requests for Greece. And I know the country, well, specifically the islands in Athens, faces a huge problem with over-tourism. And I don't want to add to that. I want to find better options. I'll be honest with you guys. This is one of the parts of travel that I really struggle with. I mean, I have struggled and do still struggle to the point that I've even reconsidered working in travel. So many people, like millions of people, see the really pretty pictures and then set their hearts on visiting a destination. But what's even worse is that some of the destinations facing these issues, not just Greece, specifically create these idyllic images and then promote them heavily. But what they don't promote is that they're not taking care of the people who call them home. For example, in Mykonos, much of the island's infrastructure is from the 50s. The roads are falling apart and can't handle the mega cruise ship buses that try to traverse them every single day. There are severe water shortages, especially throughout the summer, and the island can't properly handle waste. But who in the heck wants a photo of that? Am I right? The island is heavily dependent on tourism. Honestly, just about all of Greece is heavily dependent upon tourism, and many other places throughout Europe and around the world. And many people make most of their income in 7 months of the year. This is specifically related to Greece. So we can't turn our backs on them. The government needs to step up and better regulate things like absolutely right now. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen quickly. In the meantime, we as travelers and me as a business owner have to find better ways to do things and to travel, like going in the off season so you're not adding to the massive crowds, avoiding cruise ships, booking local guides. If your guide is in Greek or Italian or German, find another one. And skipping massive chain hotels when possible, shops and restaurants. It's important that you keep your dollars with the local people as much as possible. And don't forget to investigate tipping protocols. In some places, it's incredibly meaningful. And also, people in the tourism sector have to put up with a lot, like a mega ton. So a couple of bucks to say thanks goes a really long way. If there are any other ways that you all try to be more responsible travelers, I'd love to hear about them. Shoot me an email or a DM via social media. I have been posting regular updates of the sites and, of course, the food via my Instagram stories. And if you've missed them, don't worry. I will save them all as highlights and throw up some articles on the blog to help you plan future trips. Since I'm recording this from a vegan hotel, it seems absolutely fitting that today's interview highlights an amazing vegan hotel back in the States, Black Sheep Inn, located in the gorgeous Finger Lakes. In early 2020, British vegan couple Miranda Jones and Simon Nichols left their 6 adult children, their life in suburban Birmingham, and their corporate careers. They moved to upstate New York's beautiful Finger Lakes wine region, purchased an octagonal-shaped mansion that's listed as a historic building, and created a vegan bed and breakfast. 5 weeks after immigrating, the world turned upside down by the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. They've survived and prospered and are very much enjoying this very fulfilling chapter in their lives. With that, let's get over to my interview with Simon and Miranda. I think most people realize that running a B&B, even a vegan B&B, a regular B&B, is challenging. But you guys threw in a move to the US and a global pandemic into your start. Can you take us back to your pre-Black Sheep Inn days and share what inspired you to want to leave your career and your path to opening the Black Sheep Inn?
Shall I go first?
Well, you usually do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we were living in the city in England. I'd been in the corporate world all my working life. Miranda was as well. We were both in a situation where we just thought the time was right to move out of the city, become our own bosses. And we were buying a bed and breakfast in a lovely part of the UK. Everything was set for us to move into there. And then at the last minute, the owners changed their minds. And it was really a panic move to find an alternative before we were thrown out on the street and jobless. So we did a road trip at the end of 2019 between Toronto and Boston. And we looked at a handful of bed and breakfasts, and we made a snap decision to buy this particular property. It was an established bed and breakfast. It wasn't a vegan bed and breakfast, of course, but it's a beautiful, beautiful property, as you know, because you visited it. And we're in the Finger Lakes, which is, it's a secret gem. And, within 2 months of spending an hour or so here and then driving around the lake before we went to our next viewing, we had purchased it. And then we didn't pre-plan the COVID pandemic, of course, but it happened 5 weeks after we secured the purchase, and everything was then in lockdown. So that didn't quite go to plan. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
I think for me as well, since I was a lifelong vegetarian, but since becoming vegan, it became more important to me to feel that I had greater integrity and in everything that I did. And that was kind of a drive to thinking about ways of kind of earning a living through being vegan, and my passion for cooking. It just felt like this was the right sort of business to go into. And I think that's where I came from. I was a mental health nurse, and then I was a manager of people in a different sort of work environment. And absolutely, it's nice to do your own thing for yourself and be able to have more control over your destiny, really.
Yeah, that can be nice for sure. So you started with a property in Wales, but that fell through.
Yes.
Was it always part of the plan to stay in England with the B&B? When did the US kind of factor into that? Was it just when the Wales part fell through?
Yeah. Well, prior, I think at the same time as looking around the UK, we did kind of flirt with the idea of maybe moving stateside. Because I have dual nationality, it was a kind of an easier move than maybe for people without that. And so I had begun the process of applying for a kind of a temporary resident permit for here as well at the same time. And we'd been to, it was actually earlier in 2019, wasn't it? We flew to the West Coast because we've got friends in Oregon, and we kind of drove around a bit and looked at a few things over there. But property is way more expensive than over here. And we really didn't find anything that was what we wanted it to be, really, which was a going concern business with enough space for us to live. And my dad came with us, so we wanted enough space for us to live in harmony, which meant that he had to have his own territory within that space. So we put that on the back burner, fell in love with a place in Wales that we were buying, but in the meantime, Sy remained on emailing lists for realtors over here, and a lot of properties in the northwest were kind of ticking boxes for Sy. And so I think that when the place in Wales fell through, we kind of were flummoxed for a bit. We'd sold houses, we were ready for the next step, we'd quit our jobs, etc. And
well, it was a limited market, of course, in the UK and here. I mean, there's not that many bed and breakfasts for sale at any particular point in time. There was nothing else that could have ticked all our boxes at that time. We couldn't afford to do nothing because, as I say, we'd quit our jobs and we got a buyer for both our house and my father-in-law's house. So we didn't want to lose all of that because it took quite a lot of effort to get to that point. So it was, it was a kind of a knee-jerk, but we were incredibly lucky, as it turns out, that we did what we did when we did it and as quickly as we did it, because obviously just 5 weeks after we actually closed on the purchase, there was a 2-year international travel ban. So it wouldn't have happened at all. And we've talked many times about, well, what would we have actually done? I don't know. We'd have probably desperately gone back to, I don't know, renting a property and me getting back in the corporate world. I don't know how it would have played out, really, because the lockdown rules for bed and breakfasts over 2020 and 2021 were horrendous. In
the UK,
In the UK. So we probably couldn't have even gone and viewed any more properties once lockdown occurred.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of like, we need to go and see what's available in the US just so we can put that one to bed, draw a line under it. But we didn't end up drawing a line under it because property number 2 was here. Yeah. And it was a very goosebumpy kind of tour around here because it's a spectacular property. I love Victorian architecture, and this is very unusual Italian style within the Victorian era as well, which is great. It's an
octagon. It's kind of really strange, but it kind of plays into our kind of eccentricity and kookiness probably quite well. It kind of suits us. So, and I just think it was entirely lucky. Well, I'm kooky.
I'm just thinking, what octagon, the 8-sided Sy or what?
I used to be in marketing at one point. I had this 8-sided marketing plan. It was kind of, it just fell into place. Okay. I don't think we.
Now you can kind of use it on your 8-sided B&B, maybe. How has the community been with, welcoming you guys in? I mean, as foreigners, as kind of a unique business, veganism is definitely growing where you are, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But it's not the norm in the Finger Lakes necessarily.
No, it's not the norm at all. It's kind of a little bit slow to change around here, I'd say, really.
It's a small town.
It's set in its ways. We've been warmly welcomed by everybody, though. I think that they've got a lot of curiosity about us, or initially they did anyway, because, not much changes around here. So that's been great.
I mean, I see this is a hospitality-based economy around here. It's a resort area, and I think our role within all of that is we help. We don't, uniquely bring people into the area, but we help facilitate bringing people into the area. So we're kind of the entrance in, and that's our main function within the community. I mean, we have, as Miranda says, we've been supported by the local community, but I don't feel that we're totally immersed in the local community, because, as I say, we're really mainly dealing day in, day out with people from outside of the community coming in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've had no issues with any of the locals. I don't know they all understand what we're saying. If I had $1 for everybody who thought I was an Australian, it's
really
doing my nutter. Come on, I'm not Australian. Anyway, no.
I remember you telling me when we were visiting, it was a really interesting story about, I think when you guys first moved there, maybe you didn't have a driver's license and someone offered you to use their car. Is that right?
It was our car. Our car was off the road. Yeah, it was off the road, and our neighbour over the road he phoned up actually and said he was in New Jersey, but if we were stuck for any transport, here's the code.
Here's the access code to his garage.
Oh my gosh.
I've got a
keys are in the ignition.
Yeah, help yourself basically.
So Bill Hutches, he's a good guy.
two thumbs up for Bill. That's really nice. Yeah. That's a really unique thing. I don't think that you would expect from someone. It seems people can be incredibly generous in unexpected ways.
That's true. Well, I think there was a number of people who were pleased to see that we had taken on the inn specifically, and Bill, who is our next door neighbour on the opposite side of the road, he has a family connection. So it's dear. This property is dear to his heart. The fact that it's a bed and breakfast now is a secondary thing. But he and others local with family connections to this home have been generally very supportive. And I mean, they're the most important people, the people who are in our mind. Because, without being silly about it, we feel there's so much history to this property. I mean, it's on historic register, but for example, the family that built it lived in it for over 100 years. And the main guy who built it has historical connections to the oldest winery in New York State, which is just down the road. And his diaries are in the county museum. So, we feel, without being silly about it, we feel a little bit like we're custodians of this place. We don't feel like we're owners, and we certainly don't want to make any major changes to what's here.
Did either of you guys have hospitality experience before going into this?
No. I mean, I'd worked in pubs as a young adult, I'd say, as supplemental income.
Sure.
But no, I mean, my hospitality experience was in entertaining friends and being the mother of 3 sons who's with an open door policy at home. So there'd frequently be 14 to 20 young men in my house, hungry and being fed. So
I think that might be some pretty good preparation.
Yeah. That's why my portion control is so rubbish, though, because I'm used to feeding boys with hollow legs.
we take out, I think we should take out shares in Ziploc bags and these food containers for people to take away for later.
Yeah, no kidding. But those are really nice to have when you have a long drive home.
My experience with sales and marketing. So, I mean, I just talk a lot. So.
But I think that's part of the experience, which adds to it for sure. Unless you talk too much and Miranda needs you back in the kitchen, and then we know you're in trouble.
That's where the electronic tag on my ankle comes in. Yeah.
So without any hospitality experience, what has the learning curve been like for the two of you with running this?
I think we seem to play to each other's personal strengths to some extent, and division of labour is important. I would say we've probably had over 2,000 guests stay with us now, and 99.9% of those are Americans. And I would say this, I think Americans get a bad rap internationally as being rude, loud, aggressive, all these kind of things. 99.999% of all the people who've stayed with us have been absolutely lovely. I guess it's a part of the bed and breakfast kind of experience that you have those kind of dynamics with guests. But I think it's been very enjoyable. It's been hard work, and we're doing different work. I mean, it's a lot less thinking going on and a lot more on your feet physical stuff. But it's been enjoyable.
I think my initial, I felt terribly anxious to begin with. I think with people paying me to do what I used to do for nothing, but got into my groove really, and we've just got our little, I wouldn't say autopilot, because it really matters to me to deliver consistent quality to everybody who walks through the door. What's the learning curve? I think I'm probably better at multitasking and keeping lots of things going at the same time. That's good. I can fold a fitted sheet really
that
neatly
is a talent.
now. Yeah, do you know? And I know I often think that while I'm folding fitted sheets, I couldn't do this before. I just used to bundle things up and shove them away, and now, like in seconds, I can do that.
It was all a case.
Small gains.
The whole thing was exacerbated, as you said earlier. That we took this over just before COVID, so there was a steep learning curve around what are the responsibilities, legal responsibilities, and regulatory responsibilities for running a business, not just a bed and breakfast, but any business here in the UK, because you never know in life what you don't know, if that makes any sense. So we came here with a lot of knowledge about how the taxation system in the UK works and what have you. And although we did some research, you recall, we did all this within 2 months, and we had Christmas intervening. We had to rely upon some of the initial people who got involved through introductions through the realtor that we bought the place with. And to be fair, that was a mixed experience, let's say. We found people who now are genuinely knowledgeable and supportive of us, so attorney, accountant, that sort of thing. We went through a few rough spells with that, but also with the shutdown that occurred, a lot of the things that we needed to happen quickly under normal circumstances, they would have happened quickly. They suddenly went to a snail's pace. So we did struggle a little bit with getting ourselves fully established in the country partly because of COVID. But I think by the end of 2020. We were firing on all cylinders, really, weren't we, I think?
Well, I don't know whether I ever fire on all cylinders, but as near as I possibly can to that.
We've not got into trouble anyway, touch wood.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So you bought the property in 2019, then you moved at the beginning of 2020, is that right?
End of January 2020, what was it, the 26th or 28th of January?
28th we completed.
Yeah, so that's when we closed on the sale on the 20-something of January 2020.
We came over November 2019, so
that was a recce trip,
So we had our offer accepted probably by the end of November, and then things moved pretty quickly, but we had to do everything, obviously.
And it was March, middle of March, 12th of March or something, when the state closed everything down. So it was about 5 weeks of trading, obviously out of season. So we probably accommodated 3 or 4 couples. That was about it. And then we were shut down for 84 days, which, we look back at it positively and say, well, we had a lot of time to evaluate what we'd purchased, because we hadn't really had a chance to do that, but also to look around the region and get our bearings as to where we sat within the Finger Lakes region. So it wasn't all bad. I think it was a bit nerve-wracking, yeah.
I think it was utterly terrifying, and our contingency fund absolutely was depleted because we weren't eligible for any federal support.
That's
because
true.
We have no historic tax records here, and everything was based on how you were impacted compared to the previous tax year. Yeah. So, we drove around a bit and, saw the sights, but absolutely.
We went to Niagara Falls a few times. That was cool.
It was a terrifying time, actually.
Yeah, we couldn't borrow any money. What was bizarre is that the credit reference agencies like Experian, they're in the UK as well as in the US, but your information doesn't transfer across. So we were like a pair of 17-year-olds with no credit rate, but with none of the benefits of being a 17-year-old. It's like, so we had to. It was a brief hurdle to get over, wasn't it? Really, we got there.
I think this is like, when you look back, everything always is through rose tinted spectacles,
Sure.
isn't it? A lot of the time, yeah. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I hope so.
Even if we'd wanted to go back home, we couldn't have done. We couldn't have got on a plane for over 2 years, So no. I mean, I think it's worked out fine, but purely luck.
Yeah.
In that sense, what we did, where we picked, when we did it, and how quickly it happened.
It was kind of serendipitous. It was like you guys were really meant to be there for sure.
Absolutely.
I guess so.
Yeah,
it's kind of amazing that you guys were able to have a few guests before like the complete shutdown, because the end of January to beginning of March. So it was fairly turnkey then when you took the keys, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, look, Rebecca, I can barely change a light bulb. We couldn't have been a project. I mean, no, seriously, we did inherit guests that had pre-booked with the previous owners.
Our first guests booked with us, and there was a couple in the books for that period. We had 5 couples, I remember.
Yeah.
A couple, some booked with us.
Yeah, but it was slim pickings. And then, of course, we had the painful process of trying to look through bookings to see who was legally allowed. Because if you recall, I mean, things change within New York State almost on a daily basis. What was good about it is the state communicated it very well to everybody. So we just had to keep, readjusting how we approach things. And I know for a while that there was an agreement between New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and New Jersey, I think, where you could actually travel freely between those states. But I mean, I remember having a conversation with a guy who was, I think it was Wisconsin. He was at an airport and he was determined to come and visit us. And I said, hang on, you can't, because we would be, we potentially would be fined $1,000 a night if you came and stayed. He wasn't happy. But I'm sorry, I wasn't going to risk it.
Yeah, right. Of course.
So it was difficult, but we offered a postponement policy with no penalty to people, and they could rebook anytime. We guaranteed the 2020 or 2019 prices for 3 years, and that seemed to keep us afloat, really. Because there's one thing worse than not taking any money as a closed down business, but having to hand back money that people had given you as deposits previously would have been a real toughie. So we got through it. It's cool.
And then when did you guys officially reopen back to the public?
It was in June.
About the 12th of June, I want to say. And then initially, I seem to recall, we got a lot of booking. And this stayed like this, I'd say, for at least 2 years. The majority of bookings were pretty much last minute. Yeah. Average was probably, a couple of weeks. Now we seem to be in a normal situation where we've got bookings for certain key weekends, holiday weekends. We've got them pretty much throughout the whole of the season and have had for some time already. So that's reassuring. But in the early days, it was pretty much people were obviously not sure whether they would contract COVID before they arrived. So the postponement policy was really helpful for that. But yeah, it kind of kept us afloat. We did a lot of offers on things like gift certificates and what have you that helped to bring some money in. Yeah. It was, we were, but the early guests were all from, I would say, from downstate, places like New York, the greater New York City area, who were just desperate to get out of New York City and into the country, really. And that actually reflects on what happened to properties, the property market here. The value of properties really shot up, and all of the available properties that there were around about February, March time in 2020, by the end of the summer 2020, they'd all gone, and people were buying properties up here without ever seeing them, and multiple bids. It went nuts. I mean, it's stabilized now, but it had that impact on the whole of the area.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So you guys really did buy at the right time, because then this probably would not have been the price that you ended up paying for in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the other thing to bear in mind about property prices is we would never have purchased the property that we have here in the UK, because it would probably have been at least twice as expensive, and it wouldn't have made any sense as a business to spend twice as much money as we did buying this place to run it as a bed and breakfast, because the income that you could generate from a 5-6 bedroom bed and breakfast is probably similar in the UK to what it is here. Mm-hmm. So the maths wouldn't have been the same. So yeah, I mean, it's just lucky. We're just lucky.
You did plan well too. Maybe a little luck, but some good planning.
Yeah.
So for people who have not had the chance, but will hopefully take us up on the offer for you to come visit you guys after listening to this, what can people expect from visiting you?
A lot of talking.
Rebecca's asking me a question.
You're a great conversationalist.
I've got to give you a decent answer. Well, I tell you what stood out for us on the road trip. So we went between Toronto and Boston. We looked at a handful of properties, and there were some other beautiful properties. However, what struck us was that this is a beautiful area, and there's so much for people to come and do here. So it's a great place to buy a bed and breakfast. And it's been evidenced by the fact that we've got, I don't know how many, I wouldn't like to say, but there's probably a score of couples that have been back to this property 4, 5, 6 times. And it's obviously not just to see us, but it's about there being so many different things to do. Right. It is the epicenter of the East Coast wine industry here. I mean, Keuka Lake, which is what we're on the edge of. Keuka Lake had a clean sweep of all the New York State award-winning wines and wineries last year. It's really got the best wineries in the whole of this region, which is a big draw for people. But then you've got things like Watkins Glen. I mean, that's a phenomenal place to visit. Just the lakes themselves are very beautiful, and you've got 11 lakes in total. So you've got a variety of different types of lake experience.
We're near to Farm Sanctuary.
Farm Sanctuary is a big draw,
and Sweet Farm as well.
Coincidentally, I mean, we weren't aware of those when we decided to buy here, but yeah, I mean, we've had a very close tie-up with Farm Sanctuary.
So you've got hiking, you've got wineries, you've got distilleries, you've got breweries, you've got museums, you've got natural beauty, and you've got proximity to the sanctuaries, to exploring Seneca and Keuka Lakes from here quite easily, really. In-house, what do you get as a guest? You get a lot of, you get a very warm welcome from both of us. You get nicely appointed bedrooms, all with ensuite facilities. You get complimentary champagne and chocolates in your room. You can add on a cake, you can add on flowers, you can add on homemade truffles, and then you get a very generous breakfast in the morning that will set you up for a day of hiking. It'll certainly line your stomach for a day of drinking. I feel the community service that I offer is to just make sure that you're equipped for whatever you choose to do with yourself during the day. There's a lot of restaurants locally, and whilst most of our guests probably aren't vegan, I always like to speak in terms of what vegan options there are locally. And I would say that we're lucky now that we've got a 100% vegan Thai restaurant in Watkins Glen. That's been a great addition. Now that's since you came.
Oh, it's a new one?
You went to... Yeah. So you will have gone to Thai Elephants. And then, so now round the corner from there, it's Green Elephants. Not owned by the same people, but they all know each
friends.
other. And this is 100% vegan. So it's phenomenal. It's got, it's got the mock duck, it's got the tofu, and it's just great. You can tell the story in a little bit. I can see he's absolutely
eager to tell us something. Yes.
He's got a little story. So we've got that. That's great. I don't know, was Grandma's Kitchen around when you came? I can't remember when they opened. That's a vegan
it was
cafe.
Closed and we came, and it said temporarily closed, and I was worried that meant completely closed. Did they reopen?
No, they've moved. They had a flood in their Montauk Falls location, so they're now in the process of setting up in Horsehead. So that's a 100% vegan cafe that's going to be open Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and they do pop-up events. Farm Sanctuary have now got their own cafe, so they're catering the breakfast element. I'm not sure what other food that they're going to roll out. Then in our village, we have, I'd say 50% of the restaurants are offering three vegan options.
It's moving slowly.
We've got a Mexican restaurant, which probably wasn't there when you came either, on the 54. That's got a vegan menu. And we've got Hollowhorn Distilling, was that?
No,
that's got vegan options. Yeah. That's in Naples. The Cellar, which I'm sure
in Corning
you did
is a good one.
in Corning. So there's a lot of there's a lot of vegan options, which is great for people.
Certainly more than there was a couple of years ago, definitely, yeah.
That's changed, as has the range and variety of produce that's available.
Well, even the village store's got a bunch of vegan.
You can get a good vegan charcuterie board together just going to the Hammondsport grocery store, actually. He stocks a lot of really good cheese there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking of Hammondsport, for folks that don't know, probably about 15 years ago now, I've lost track of time, but Hammondsport won the cutest small town in America.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Well, it's played off of that ever since. And the only thing I'd say is, well, nothing's changed there. So it's probably...
They're not motivated to change because they think that if they change it, they'll no longer be cute.
Yes, yes. So it is small but perfectly formed, isn't it? And then the lake itself is beautiful. It's a very unusual lake. It's kind of Y-shaped and it's got currents that go in different directions. Very rare, apparently, globally. It's lovely in the summer. It's lovely in the fall. Winters aren't as bad as we thought over here. We thought we'd be, it would be the ice age here, but actually it's. Well, I don't know what I can't possibly think what that might be down to. Possibly global warming or whatever. But no, possibly. It's bearable even the winter. We were full this weekend, so to me, and we have been full most weekends since
the end of January.
Really.
We tend to go back to the UK in January just to catch up with friends and family. It's a good time to go, really. Everybody's broke.
Nobody's got any money after
wants
Christmas.
To go on holiday. So, yeah. But since the end of January, weekends have been busy. Had midweek people as well, haven't we? We've got check-ins
people passing
tomorrow.
Through, yeah.
And it's, yeah.
No, I think, I think we've got enough business to cope with. And by the end of the summer, we're pretty exhausted, and it's been that way really each year, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. So we can't have any complaints at all. And it's one of the nicest things is to see people that we've met before, and it's we feel good that they're coming back, and they want a little bit more of the bed and breakfast, but also the area.
We do. We're always really touched and grateful for the volume of really nice reviews that people can be bothered to leave.
It's humbling, isn't it?
It's great. And I know the effort that's involved in that, because you often intend to leave a review and life gets in the way, and before you know it, it's weeks later.
Yeah.
But we do get really nice reviews left, and we both remark on how it's probably the first job that either of us have had where people say thank you to us.
That's a real contrast.
I'm so glad.
The corporate world is pretty brutal. Yeah. That's why I wanted to leave it. But for here, I think you know me well enough. All I do is this. I just chat a lot of, stuff. And people say such nice things publicly. We don't even pay them to do it.
That's a really nice place to be.
Wow. Supposing we should pay people to do reviews. Wow. That'd be, yeah. Well, that's probably not correct. We wouldn't do it.
You might get a little bit of flack from that. I probably would discourage that. Do you think getting all the positive reviews might have helped, especially in the beginning, boost your confidences about taking on this new venture? Yeah. Miranda, you mentioned you were worried about cooking people and having them pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's really good. And I think now we probably feel, I feel more confident in my ability to deliver, and to do what I'm supposed to do. But it's really nice that people appreciate what you do. And what's been really good is the number of reviews that we've got from people who aren't vegan, who say, don't be scared if you're not vegan, I'm not vegan, the food's great, just go and eat it. And I think that's really our approach, is whilst as vegans we kind of would like the whole world to be vegan, sure. Absolutely, and there's all of the many reasons that that would help us as a species and the planet as a whole. Realistically, it's just nice to be able to showcase vegan food and vegan living without, without making it a big deal, really. Just
that's one of our mantras, isn't it?
Normalising
it's just food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Two things for me have always been the case. if the flavor's good and the texture's good, then it's good, right? And so enjoy it, and let's not make a big deal. So we certainly don't preach to anybody.
Well, if you ask the question, I don't hold back. If people ask me, I don't pretend that there's any reason that I'm vegan that isn't, what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's less of a thing. It's on our website, but it's only one of the many facets to coming here, really. And I think don't play it down out of any shame or to make it kind of more appealing to people. It just is just one thing.
It's just what we are. We would have never taken on a bed and breakfast and not made it vegan, because we're vegan, and we've been vegan for 8 years.
I would not want to compromise my belief at all for that.
Right.
So that's really good, and it's really good to be able to have conversations about, around, well, so you didn't put any meat, any dairy or any eggs in this thing that you've baked. What's butter-like substance on the table?
Some people struggle to believe that it's true, but it's true.
That's really good, because I think people, we've had emails as well from people just checking in, sort of saying, I only buy that oat milk now. It's great.
Oh my gosh,
and you've really inspired me to.
And non-vegans asking for recipes for her muffins or whatever it might be. So, one of the things that I think has had a bit of an effect on some people, you can tell some people are, well, a little bit resistant to the idea, even if they're polite enough not to say so, is they don't get the big picture arguments, if you like. But I'd say, well, look here, I did all this totally selfishly, which I did. Well, I don't think she'd have been very happy with me if I didn't go vegan, but actually I went for my own personal health reasons, and it had an immediate impact. So why would I argue against? Plus I can barely burn toast, so it was either she cooks the food or I go starving. It's like so. But no, so that does make people think, oh, really? Okay, because you have people sat there and you can tell they're not very healthy. They might be 20 years younger than us, but they're clearly on the wrong path from a diet perspective. And I don't want to pick that up, obviously, because although I'm fairly direct, so I wouldn't be rude like that. And if they start to talk about, veganism, and it's kind of, well, I'm not sure why, or they're making excuses why we don't eat as much red meat as we do, but I could never give up cheese. And I think, well, why not? One of the things I do say to people is, in the 8 years we've been vegan, what I've noticed is that the range and availability of plant-based foods that successfully mimic meat and dairy has gone through the roof. So in the early days, there may have been some pretty disgusting vegan cheeses out there, but now you can find fantastic foodstuffs. Pretty much, just look and you can find them. So I don't think there are any excuses, and there's some pretty strong argument. That's your favourite phrase, isn't it?
What, the view from the moral high ground is quite spectacular.
That is a really good phrase. I think people might assume that only vegans patronize your B&B, but the vast majority of your clients are non-vegan, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think the proportions are probably, over a period of time, are probably evening out a little bit more. But is that because the vegans keep coming back? Well, not necessarily, because we've got non-vegans. Some of our most repetitive visitors, that's the right way of putting it, are non-vegans. Flyers. Frequent flyers. There you go. So we've got this. He's a dairy farmer, and he's been like 8 times. And he and I have a bit of banter between us. Like he'll pick up the butter, and they go, "Oh no, that's not real butter." And I go, "Stop it." But they've been back 8 times, and that's not because we're vegan or because we're not vegan. It's because they love the inn, they love the area, and they'll. If we moved out of here tomorrow, somebody came in and took over the inn and they weren't vegans, they'd still keep coming. Yeah. So it's one part of what we do, but it doesn't seem to be the be all and the end all.
Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to Globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady-Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exciting and exotic destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat, or staying at a carbon-neutral camp in Kenya during the Great Migration, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over? To explore our dazzling lineup of 2024 trips and secure your spot on your next vegan adventure today.
I think as far as vegans are concerned, they love it because it's a bonus to find somewhere where they don't have to think twice about it.
You know yourself, you travel. I mean, breakfast is the meal that everybody forgets about. You can't, I mean, we're just, I was just planning a trip for us for Si's birthday in May, and nowhere caters breakfast still. I mean, it's just Happy Cow is your friend still. Yeah. So it's really lovely for people to come here and know that they're not going to rest their head on a pillow filled with feathers, which that seems to be everywhere that we go to. It drives me crazy why that is luxurious. It's an obscenity. And all the hotels that we stay at, you can maybe get oatmeal. I mean, who wants
the same
oatmeal?
In Europe? When we used to go on a lot of city breaks when we lived in Europe, and you'd want to go to places like Paris, Berlin, Rome, Venice, all these places. You'd like to go to a nice hotel, but the first thing you needed to do was to go on Happy Cow and find a vegan cafe that would be within an easy walking distance of a decent hotel. You'd have to do it that way around because we've been to all of these major hotel chains and they really don't accommodate a plant-based diet for breakfast.
So it's really nice.
Can't eat breakfast. You get a banana and that's it.
Yeah, so vegan guests, absolutely. They'll all say, it's just so lovely not having to ask about everything.
Yeah, it is.
It's just so that's really gratifying to be able to provide the sort of experience that we'd quite like to be on the receiving end as guests in a hotel.
It's a little bit of activism for you guys too, maybe unexpectedly, because you're getting these people come through that aren't coming for the vegan part of it, but by proxy they're getting it, and they're getting exposed to things that maybe they would have been reluctant to buy or try. And then I mean, if they're sending you emails like that after the fact, like, you guys are really making a difference. It's a really spectacular thing to have in your business.
It feels really good. And whilst I love hosting vegans and just being able to have that level of conversation with people who won't find anything that you say offensive, and you don't really have to kind of censor yourself. I really enjoy feeding carnists. When they love what you're feeding them, it's just like, yes.
One of my most memorable experiences with a guest was a young couple came up from Pennsylvania. They turned up in a jacked up truck. He had a baseball cap. I swear he must have gone to bed in it. They were a young couple, lovely, lovely couple, but clearly they weren't vegan. And they stayed for 2 nights. And the second breakfast, I said, his name was Matt. I said, Matt, have you had a good time? He said, Miranda's food is absolutely fantastic. I said, that's really good. He said, but I got to tell you, Simon, he said, when she told me on the way up that you guys were vegans, and the way he kind of almost like spat the word vegans out, he said, when she told me that you guys were vegans, I had to pull the truck over on the side of the road. And he said, I didn't think I was going to be able to eat anything. And I said, oh, come on, Matt. You've eaten bread, you've eaten fruit. I said all these things. He said, well, I know that now. He said, it's made me think. And I thought, people, and then he asked where she got her plant-based sausages. What's the brand, and what was the brand of the butter that she used? Gosh. It's a small thing, but it's like those kind of things. You think, I wonder if he's probably gone back to eating meat and dairy. But
people changing just one part of their diet is a huge step. I mean, the amount of plant milk that's now drunk in preference to dairy has caused a real impact for the dairy industry. And I think it's that sort of thing that helps to make a change, Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, change doesn't necessarily or doesn't normally happen in a tsunami type form. It's small activities over time, that make that happen. So, I mean, that's a really amazing step to have someone that went from I had to pull over my vehicle because I was just so blown away by the fact that I wasn't going to have animal products hey, those sausages were really good. Yeah, I mean, kudos to you guys. Like, that's amazing.
It makes you wonder what people actually think vegans eat.
Yes.
Well, I've been the butt of a joke. I mean, I'm in a band, and one of the guys in the band, I remember we were walking. We were outside.
This was a previous band. In case your current band,
I've left that band because of this man. Okay. He's not in the band that I'm in at the moment. But I remember we were walking along the sidewalk, and he just reached down and he pulled a tuft of grass. He said, "Do you want a snack, Simon?" And I thought, "Oh God, this is pathetic. Yeah. Come on, guys." I said, I'm probably way better than you because I'm married to a really good cook. And, if I want to go out, I go to a restaurant where I know the food's good. So I'm not missing out on anything, actually. And I do eat a lot. I don't know if you remember, but I eat like a horse. I
like that you looked at Miranda for that.
He was trying to think what animal eats a lot.
It's a phrase, isn't it? Eat like a horse.
It is. Well, speaking of eating, your breakfast is kind of on the special side, I'd say, from like other maybe B&Bs or at least other hotel experiences, because it's not like a giant buffet. You have this really lovely menu that's printed with a few different options, and then you've got your little granolas. It's like an amazing feast. So let's talk about that a little bit of like, what can people expect when they roll out of bed in the morning?
I think that we wanted the breakfast to be a kind of one of our kind of USPs, really, absolutely. So, and we wanted it to be generous. I felt very conscious that I wanted people to feel that they were getting value for money. And I guess the way that it's set up is not dissimilar to a lot of establishments in the UK. It's kind of a more traditional British model, maybe, that you get a choice of options off a menu and maybe some stuff that's there. But I make my own granola, and we've now got
4 different types of granola.
Got 4, yeah, I've got 4. So the one that you haven't had is cherry bakewell granola, which is lovely. It's cherry and almond, delicious.
Just giving me more reasons to come back.
Yeah, you really should come back. And then we've got, fresh fruit cocktail as well that's on every table to go with the granola. And then freshly made either muffins or breads, like fruit breads, or now I have diversified into croissants.
To die for.
Which are very exciting. That's been a labour of love, but I've got there.
That's a huge labour.
I have got there.
Well, I've had to eat all the test versions of it. It's been hideous. It's a job that somebody had to do, Rebecca.
It's really hard work. I feel bad for you.
Really hard work.
Yeah. He's a brave soldier, though, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, and then we have a choice of 4 hot options cooked to order. So it's a leisurely affair, served in a 2-hour window between 8 and 10. Come down when you want, sip at your tea, coffee, have some juice and water, and just meander your way through a banquet, really.
As I said earlier, I mean, we probably should have shares in Ziploc bags. We don't let people leave the table unless they really don't like any of the food. We don't let them leave the table with anything that they could have eaten, but they just haven't got room for.
That sounds a bit punitive.
I wouldn't mind those if all punitive.
It's like boarding school here.
Yeah.
Okay,
if it comes in the form of food,
you're not getting down until you've finished that.
I do joke with certain people where I think I can get away with that kind of humour, but I kind of sow the seed by saying, look, now I know this looks overwhelming, all this food here, and I appreciate that probably you don't eat a lot of food every breakfast. But, I can give you a Ziploc bag and you can take these bad boy muffins away with you, and that will leave you room to have your hot course. Yeah. Pretty much everybody says, oh, okay, I'll do that then.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, my attitude is if we can't provide our guests with comfortable beds and a decent breakfast, then we are falling down as far as what we do. Everything else should be a bonus, really. Yeah. But we're conscious about the cleanliness of the rooms and the way the beds are made up, and we think we did buy decent beds. And
really
her food is pretty top notch, really.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's a typical model over here that everybody sits around a communal table at the same time to eat, or whether that was just something that happened locally to us here. But that was something that we really didn't want to carry on, regardless of whether there was a pandemic, which meant that there had to be social distancing.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first things that we did, was replace communal tables with separate ones, so that people could choose to be as sociable as they wished, and they didn't have to come down and eat en masse, which I think isn't in keeping with being on vacation and wanting to
be more
relax. And
I mean, I don't think we'd have ever done anything here or in the UK with a bed and breakfast that we wouldn't have felt comfortable being a guest and experiencing. So it was very much around let's try and be laid back as much as possible. The fact that we're sat here in our own barn, which is detached from the inn, is one of those aspects that we needed as a prerequisite for buying somewhere. I.e., we didn't want to be living under the same roof as the guests. Not because we smell or anything. It's because we just wanted the guests. We just wanted the guests to have the freedom, the feeling that they weren't needing to watch out for the owners of the property, or that they might feel that we were watching over them or trying to keep them, under control. That's the last thing that we would have wanted if we were guests in a bed and breakfast. So, people can come. There's plenty of outdoor spaces. People who can chill in various places as a couple, or maybe as two couples together as a group, and have their own. There's plenty of different options and spaces here for people to do that. They don't want us to be tripping over them or giving them a hard time about anything. So I think that's one thing that this property enables us to be, is to be separate and yet on call. Everybody has our cell phone numbers, and if they've got any problems or any questions, just call us or text us, and we'll be over.
Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, I think it's really important for you guys too, so you have a little bit of separation from work and your personal life as well, because as that kind of, there's not really a huge wall between those two things.
No, and I think that's one thing that we find, is that the more frequently that people return, the more close to us they feel. Sure. And whilst we really like seeing people again, we don't feel that we can treat them any differently than people who have come for the first
that's the balance.
time.
Yeah.
And, it's
when we've got like 10 guests and there's a couple that's been back here 4 or 5 times, and we do like them, and they clearly are happy to come and spend time at our property. We've got 8 other guests that we want to give an even experience to. So it can get a bit. I don't think we've had any really awkward experiences.
I mean, it's nice to be able to go home, because there's the little bit of distance that would stop them from knocking on our bedroom door.
It allows us to have some horrendous arguments as well. It's great.
Yeah, they don't need to be privy about that. You had mentioned being conscious about everything, in the rooms, the mattresses, and I know that level of consciousness, extends even further than, your mattresses and your pillows from my stay there. And so, I'm interested to hear a little bit about what you guys put into, or what you guys had to put into for sourcing all of the other, materials and things for, your chocolates and the champagne. And was it difficult to find, vegan toiletries and all of that? Was any of that ever challenging?
Yeah. That was really interesting. I mean, that was something that actually did think about as soon as we got here, was what do we want to do? We certainly loved how the previous owners had renovated the property and furnished it, and they'd certainly paid no attention, they'd paid every little attention
5
to
years
detail.
They took to renovate it. And he's an interior designer. Hats off to them. They did a fabulous job.
Yeah, they did a great job. However, they didn't supply luxury toiletries in the room, and I felt that was befitting of what is really a boutique hotel experience here. I think so. I I had a brand in mind that is a UK-based company called Neil's Yard, and I just explored whether it was available here, and it was. And I thought, well, that's great because we're English and that's English.
And it's vegan.
And, well, it's vegetarian and organic, and a lot are vegan. So we use the vegan. Some of their stuff has beeswax in and honey, and we don't use that. So we use them for our shower gel, shampoo, conditioner, soap. So that's great. That's what supply for that. The chocolates, I look for local suppliers around here, and in Rochester, which is probably our nearest big city, is about an hour and 20 minutes away from us. There's Hedonist it's pronounced here, chocolates, and they have a vegan range. So reached out to them as well about supplying them, and they'll mail it to us if we can't get up there. So we have
pre-packaged, pre-badged mail.
They've got like a printing press, Posy Print, I think she's called. I can't remember actually, so that might be misquoting. But so we've got the image of the inn on a little card that's hand tied to each chocolate bar that goes onto the bed now, and that's lovely that they supply that for us. The champagne, I mean, that goes back to earlier in our conversation. The nearest winery, which is the number one bonded winery of the Pleasant Valley, and the guy who built our house was one of. He was a
co-founder in 1860, so it's the oldest winery in New York State, but it's the number one bonded winery in the whole of America. Oh, wow. So he was a co-founder of it. He built the Octagon here in 1859. He co-founded Pleasant Valley Winery in 1860, and in 1908 they won an award in Paris, and so the French have allowed them to call it champagne ever since. And it seemed a logical thing for us to offer that. Now, we are not permitted as a property to sell or make any alcohol, but there's nothing to stop us from giving it away. So that's what we do. We give away a bottle of the champagne. It's in the room when guests turn up, and it's from the winery that the guy who built our house co-founded. So we just feel like there's, and of course it's vegan. So we feel like that's an obvious, natural.
That's such a nice connection. I didn't realize that connection with the wine or the champagne.
So we just wanted to raise it a little bit. So whilst we didn't raise our prices, we certainly raised what people can expect when they come here, to just make it feel a little bit more luxurious. I think that we want people to feel that they're being pampered, that we value them and their like time for R&R. It's worked well.
I mean, we're probably not running it as efficiently from a business perspective as we could do, but actually we feel happy. I always like to think that I can sleep well at night, and I like to feel more. It's more important that people go away feeling that they weren't ripped off in any way. And
again, that goes back to how this venture, what our next venture had to be. It had to feel like we were authentic and had integrity. So I think that comes nicely back to that I do feel that we have integrity with the service that we deliver here. Behind the scenes, I choose all plant-based vegan products to clean, and recycled loo paper. And we try, and I do recycle everything, although we don't have separate recycling bins around the property because we think that detracts from the historic nature of the building. And
we then sift through it when guests leave,
I am like some sort of bag lady who has her gloves on and goes through bins. So be careful what you throw away.
I would have separated it if I'd known. I don't actually know what we would have thrown out.
I would lose sleep if I let plastic go in landfill.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
Oh my gosh, that is so kind. Were there things that you struggled to find vegan that you wanted?
Yeah, I can't think of anything, to be perfectly honest.
Well, moving out of the city into a pretty remote
that has to be
area.
Challenging.
I mean, naturally, we have to travel a bit further to get the stuff. But I mean, beyond that, no, not really. I mean, there's a lot of crossover. Different
Amazon is our friend.
Yeah,
sadly, we'll get a lot of deliveries. We can I can bulk buy the milk. I'll get the shelf stable oat milk. And that's delivered, and that's way less expensive than if we went to the supermarket to buy it. No, I think it's been a labour of love. I mean, that was really fascinating to us when we first viewed the property. I mean, we went into the village afterwards and kind of tried to gather ourselves, and we just went into the burger joint in town just for a glass of wine and a chill. And on the menu there was like, a Beyond Burger, and I was, well, that's destiny then, isn't it?
They were waiting for you.
In the village, that's it. And then Googling, you saw that the pizza place had vegan cheese, and then I was like, well, let's look at the local supermarkets, and you could see that they stocked, some vegan basics. Like we've already said earlier, a lot of food's vegan, so it's readily available, but I kind of felt that we needed to provide certain food items on the breakfast menu, and I really wanted it to have a full English, again, playing into our English heritage. And you have to have a decent sausage as part of that, and I was very pleased to be able to buy those locally. Yeah. So, it's... I don't think we've struggled.
I mean, we
that,
obviously
really
took a bit of time to find the best sources, and we do shop around a lot. I mean, it makes sense if we're... so much of what our variable cost is foodstuffs. I mean, we love Wegmans. I could probably do a Wegmans shop in my sleep, blindfolded or whatever. We're in there pretty much, very regularly with things like the fresh fruit that we have for the breakfast. That's almost entirely Wegmans.
Well, we go to other places as well. I would say we now go to more wholesalers for that sort of stuff. But
that's true. We do for some of that. Yeah,
I think that's because we're a small business and we use a lot of fresh ingredients. We do spend a lot of time grocery shopping.
I'm sure.
You can't store fresh ingredients for a long time, and we don't have a catering kitchen. We don't have catering storage at all. So we are. Yes.
Although we do comply with New York State health regulations. Just put that one out there, okay?
In case anybody is listening.
Yes, we have been inspected.
We have been inspected multiple times.
Week, yeah.
Goodness me, you can't get rid of the guy.
I have to imagine that the purchasing process for all of that stuff was a bit of a learning curve too, because like I think about what I buy on a weekly basis for just two of us, but then if I've got to multiply it, and then what if like more people?
And I think that's it when you've got a menu that people can order off. If you get, that model means that you have to have enough to give every guest
potentially,
each of those things should they choose. So I'm grateful that leftover fruit freezes well, and that I love smoothies. I'm very grateful for that.
And I vacuum up all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I live off of scraps, Rebecca. It's awful.
And we all feel really bad for you.
We've kind of got it down to a fine art, though, really, now. It's...
there's very little wastage now.
Yeah, I really pride myself on that. It's a tricky one.
I bet.
And also, I don't actually want you to just live on leftover food from there, because it's... Whilst it's a healthy choice,
I've got witnesses now. I've got witnesses that you've said that. Fantastic.
She wants to keep you around for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, she is my carer. She's my carer.
So aside from the breakfast, you guys have expanded some of your offerings recently. You've added an afternoon tea. You're doing some supper clubs. What else are you guys up to that people might be able to check out? And you don't have to be a guest for these activities too, right?
No, you don't you don't need to be a guest. We've been able to
following our New York State Department of Health visit. We're now called for non-resident guests.
Yeah, under our permit, we're allowed to feed as many meals as we like to both residents and non-residents. Clearly, being a two-person operation, we can't possibly say that we're going to do 3 meals a day, 7 days a week.
We'll never be a cafe or a restaurant. Never.
Not in this incarnation, absolutely. But we decided that we'd like to see just trial events, really, and see how they went. We've always had lots of phone calls from people wanting to know if they can just come for breakfast, staying in the area. So we've got once or twice, I think it's twice a month, brunch events.
Yeah, just to be clear though, the main thing we didn't want to do, we didn't want it to impact upon a resident guest experience. So we do these brunches, which is effectively a second sitting of the breakfast. It's exactly the same setup with the granolas and the muffins and the same choices of hot food, but it's from 12.
It's between 12 and 2.
12 and 2. So breakfast is 8 till 10.
And it's on a Sunday, which is a time when a lot of people check out. So they'll have checked out at 11.
Oh, that makes sense.
So nobody's around, or if they are around, they've gone out for the day.
Afternoon teas, 2 till 4. On that doesn't. We get check-ins from 4 till 8.
Is your afternoon tea just a veganized version of your traditional English offerings? What?
It's an English afternoon tea. So I'll talk you through yesterday's menu.
It's really good.
I saw some of the pictures, and it looked amazing.
I was so glad. This is the second one we've done, and the second one I've forgotten to take photographs from. So thank you to Warren, one of our guests, who
Warren from Ithaca.
The first thing he did was take lots of photos. I was like, please send them to me. So yes, we had the choice of 3 sandwiches. So there was a tofu egg mayonnaise. There was coronation chicken, which was made with chickpeas, which is like a kind of a fruity curried traditional English sandwich filling, which apparently went back to Queen Elizabeth's coronation, hence its name. And then a garlicky cream cheese and cucumber. I made, scones, jam, butter and cream go without saying, because it's not afternoon tea without that. So you get that. And then I did, because it was Easter, I did simnel cake, which is a traditional English Easter cake, which is a rich fruit cake with marzipan sandwich in the middle and on top. Very nice.
It was good.
I did some lemon tarts, and I did some chocolate cupcakes with little mini chocolate eggs on top.
Little bunnies.
Because it was Easter.
Little bunnies and carrots were there. I just said to people, don't eat the bunnies and the carrots because they're plastic. Don't eat them.
But yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. So yeah, so we have afternoon tea. So that's, at the moment, that's once a month, but over the busy season, we're going to increase that or not. We're just seeing how it goes.
It's an experiment, really.
And then we've got a once a month supper club, which has a different kind of theme. So our first one was a British curry night. Then we had an Easter roast dinner. I think our next one's Italian. So there's going to be bruschetta and arancini and some linguine and then tiramisu. So, yeah, so they're mainly 2-course affairs, but there's a lot of food involved, as you know, I'm a feeder.
Yeah, and, especially all those things you listed off for your tea service. Did you make all of those yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
She makes everything from scratch.
I think it was all day Saturday baking various things, really, and making a couple of sandwiches.
The washing up was horrendous, Rebecca. I mean, my hands.
I'm sure ruined. You're a prune.
Ruined. Oh. I am a prune. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
He always has to make it all about him. Honestly. Let me show you my varicose veins. Come on, let's compete over who's.
And so, aside from the afternoon tea and the supper club, are you guys starting a yoga event this summer?
Oh yes, yeah. I was going to say, yeah. As you know, we inherited the title spa, which has always kind of grated with us a little bit because, you know, with the best will in the world, we have a room with a massage table in it, and to me that isn't a spa. And I think people's expectations and what we can deliver kind of drastically differ. We've struggled historically recruiting massage therapists. We live in an area where the population outside of the season is something like 450 people, most of whom are retired. There isn't a workforce. The nearest massage therapy course is in West Seneca. It's a long way away, and that has only just started up again. So the first graduates are going to be graduating next year. We had a massage therapist who was great and flexible and could pretty much meet all of our needs, and she's just moved to Massachusetts. So we're back at square one, really, with a couple of people that we use, but we cannot possibly guarantee being able to offer massages to everybody.
It's no longer a booking option, and we don't promote it on our website. The problem that we have, and we've always had this problem anyway, is that it's on our Google listing, and if we tried to change our Google listing, we would literally need to start from scratch, lose all of those lovely 5-star reviews that we've had, and we can't do it. And we've always had, ever since we've been here, particularly in the summer, of course, we get people calling, they've Googled the word spa, and they want to come and have a full-blown spa service. They're not going to stay here. And we've always said it's for in-guests only. So we could have.
And that's not just about our capacity to be able to offer the service. It's also about, the impact that would have on resident guests, because we are a small place and people would want to wander around and mooch about, and because it's an interesting building anyway. So I've been looking around thinking, well, what could sit within a wellness kind of mindset, and what could we realistically do that people might want to engage with? So we've hooked up with a local yoga teacher who's able to come and offer yoga sessions here. So we're going to use our spa room for these private yoga sessions, which can be delivered to up to 3 people. So it might be perfect for a couple, or 2 people from a foursome might want to do it and the others not so much. So we're starting to see how that goes. It's certainly a bookable option now on the website. And we're also going to be doing a wellness weekend in November. I think it's around the 16th of November. We're looking at being an immersive experience. So, some forest bathing, some meditation, some yoga sessions. So checking in on a Friday. You'll get fed on the Friday night. You'll have breakfast on the Saturday. You'll have a light lunch on the Saturday. Then you're free to go and explore, eat out as you will. Then wrap up on Wednesday after breakfast, but some early morning yoga and meditation each day. So got that blocked off on the calendar, yet to put it on the website, but it is on the to-do list of getting it together. So hopefully see how that goes.
And that's going to be exclusive, isn't it? I think we would block out.
Oh yeah, the whole in is given to people who want to participate in that. Absolutely. Yeah. So hopefully that'll be something that proves to be popular.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll see, really.
We're just experimenting.
And we're going to keep yoga on regardless of the status of our massage therapy, because I think the two can coexist beautifully, really. It's a dedicated room for wellness, so we'll just have to schedule it accordingly.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really neat to see the expansion of some of the things that you guys are working on, especially the afternoon tea. And if people have not seen your photos, I encourage them to go on your Instagram and look at those little chocolate cupcakes, because that is what caught my attention first. And if you're in the area, you better go and visit you guys. So as we wrap up here, how can people find you guys? How can they book a weekend away or an afternoon tea?
Well, afternoon teas and all events are bookable either via our website, which is www.stayblacksheepin.com/events. I understood when speaking to an American friend that / might not be / here, and it might be a backslash. So we'll just use generic /
okay,
not for that way.
That way.
The top pointing to the right. Okay, so on there, that'll pull up a page that details all of our monthly events right through 2024. We've also got the link tree underneath our Instagram profile that will take you straight through to the Square site for booking those as well.
On our Facebook page as well?
We have all the events set up under events on our Facebook page.
Right.
So, so booking via our website or over the phone.
You can always give us a call.
Absolutely. And you can reach out to us via our social media profiles on Instagram, and we are Stay Black Sheep Inn, Black Sheep Inn and Spa on Instagram, Black Sheep Inn and Spa on Facebook. Yep.
Perfect.
Please come
Come back, Rebecca.
I do want to.
Please come.
I think about my time there every once in a while, and it makes me warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that encourages more people to come check you guys out for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, we really appreciate you inviting us on. It's.
I feel that's a nice tagline.
What?
Feel warm and fuzzy. Come stay with us and feel warm and fuzzy. I like that.
That's a bit creepy. That's a bit creepy.
No, I like that.
Well, okay. With that, it has been a pleasure to chat with you guys, and I'm so glad you took time out of your day to give a little bit of a backstory of how you guys got started and what people can expect to see. And so I hope that you find a lot of new faces coming through your doors this coming season.
Yeah, we hope so too. Lovely to see you. Say hi to Matt as well.
I will.
Say hi to Matt.
Take care.
Thank you
you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.